Hi, guys. Welcome to Real Food Recovery. We have another exciting episode today, but first I must say hello to Jamie. How's your day going?
Going good. Happy to be here and excited to dive into this topic.
Good. Today we're going to talk about one of my favorite phrases. And when I ask myself, why am I so moved by the words success leaves clues, it reminds me that the universe is here to help us on this journey called life. I think of clues as these arrows pointing the way, screaming, warmer, 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 you're getting warmer. You've probably heard this phrase before, but what does it mean for you, especially when you're trying to overcome cravings, change habits, and rebuild a healthier relationship with food? Success leaves clues is the idea that those who have already achieved the results we want can serve as guides for us. This concept is incredibly valuable in recovery journeys. And just as athletes or entrepreneurs look to successful role models, those of us on this path can benefit from the experiences and practices of people who've overcome similar struggles with ultra processed food addiction.
Yeah, when I think about, success leaving clues and that phrase, it really comes down to understanding that hindsight is the best, I think the best teacher. I often, the saying hindsight is 2020. I think is a very cool idea because it really does it encompasses or defines, I'd say, that this whole idea of success leaving clues. For many people, we need to, instead of forward engineering success, right? Because we don't know what we don't know, it helps to reverse engineer success. So when you look back after a successful period of time and you look back on what the choices you made or the decisions you went down the path on, or an area that you sort of discerned yourself through, often those choices led to the success you have, but in the moment you don't necessarily realize what you're doing until you can get sort of down the road a little bit and you look and say, okay, I have some made some progress towards some goals or some paths that I wanted to travel, and now I look back and say, okay, I have I can see what I did that led me here. And now I'm going to do more of that to get me to the next stage where I want to go. So again, I think that, success leaving clues is really another way to say that is, hindsight can give us way, way more insight than at the end of a process or in the middle of a process than we have at the beginning of something, because we just don't know what works until we see success.
Yeah. And so when we talk about success, we have to acknowledge it. It may look a little different for everyone, which is totally fine. So the first question is, do you know what areas of life are most important to you? I'm asking that to those who are listening as well as to myself. For me, family is my first priority. And of course, spirituality, physical fitness, and my professional life are of high importance as well. And when it comes to relationships, I look for open communication, feeling comfortable being with those people that are important to me and being able to be myself, and time filled with laughter and bonding. As far as professionally, I like feeling my work has purpose and I enjoy that fulfillment from the work that I do. And of course, physically, I like to be able to be very active. I saw this video recently of this 90-year-old woman who was walking briskly, and then she stopped to do these step ups on a park bench as well as push ups behind the park bench. And I thought, hashtag goals. I mean, that's who I want to be. And that starts with keeping your baseline high. When I
Mhm.
climb Pikes Peak every year, near the top, there's this marker where this 87-year-old woman had been, I think, like 14 times, and they gave her this little plaque on the side of the mountain. And again, I thought goals. It is, these things are possible. And I've been a dozen times, and I don't intend to quit until I have to. Not to mention eating a clean diet of non-processed foods. And lastly, for me, spirituality is a piece of all those other areas, and when I'm successful in those areas, it allows me to easily tap into that spiritual component. Success in that area means a feeling that I'm not alone in this world. and I feel like there's a higher source or a higher power watching over me. And I think everything else is of minimal significance. What does success look like for
Uh,
you?
yeah, again, it's for me, it's more of a spiritual process than anything else. Success in this phase of my life looks like, staying close to God, staying close to my spiritual walk, staying close to my values. And if I do that, if I do those things, and those are not necessarily easy things, they're not necessarily slam dunks all the time, but they're what I try to align to. Because when I do that, the outcomes are much, I think, more rewarding, and they're just more aligned to who I want to be. Um, and for me, I spent so many years pushing towards these arbitrary goals around my body, that truly, at the end of the day, did not pay off in any big way, other than depleting my body's energy and my body's stamina. So for me, it came to understanding that, instead of hustling, I needed to align to my goals, align to God and to my spiritual practice, align to my values. And again, those my values and goals are very closely aligned. Um, and if I'm doing that, life for me looks a lot different than I thought it would. But just a lot. It's more fulfilling for me at this stage of my recovery.
Yeah, and I have to say, all these things don't come together all at once. And in fact, I'm curious if you'll agree with me on this, but I think our idea of success can change as we age. Where my
Mm,
priorities were at 20 certainly look different than at 61. And I'm
sure.
glad for that. They should. They were exactly age appropriate for those times.
Mhm.
And I'm grateful for the learning opportunities during these adult years. And I think a big part of success is learning life lessons along the way that help us define what success really means to us. And it's
Yes.
through those experiences that we are able to refine what's important to us. And actually, how could we ever even know without
Mhm.
years and decades under our belt? And
Yeah.
these mundane tasks of everyday life are exactly what we're talking about as far as leaving clues, because I think that's exactly where the clues come from, is these mundane tasks of life. What, do you agree with that?
Yeah, and I think it's important to definitely, I think it's important to define success, right? Success for Paige, is centered around different goals than success for me. And success for you, the listener or viewer, is going to be a different set of goals than Paige's or mine. So it's important first, before you look at maybe the path, looking at what the definition of success is for you. I think that's very, very important to do that. And to actually ask yourself, okay, and that's something at the beginning of a project, any project that I'm working on, especially in my professional life. I will ask, if I'm working with somebody senior to me, I'll ask them, what does success look like?
Mhm.
Um, and it's a good question to ask, because I have an idea of their vision. And it also
Right.
helps me refine the steps that I need to take to get there, and also know if I'm meeting expectations that they have. Now, personally, in my personal life, or in my recovery life, that would look different. So for me, if I stop and ask myself what success looks like, the answer, again, for me, has changed in the last few years. And it used to be very centered around my physical self, and now it's just much more centered around my, spiritual self, recovery walk, alignment with my values. That is success to me. And knowing that when I'm aligned to those things, which again is not always linear, sometimes it's one step forward and two steps back. But when I do recognize, and reflect on what I've done, the steps I've taken to try to align to my values, or try to align to, my spiritual practices, and the things I value spiritually, then I feel, at least if I didn't hit the mark I wanted to hit, that I am better for the journey. Instead of before, when I would beat myself up physically or mentally, trying to get to some arbitrary goal that I set for myself based on some expectation that was set for me by society or another person or the media, right? I'm trying to sort of set these goals based, that aren't mine, and that might not align to what my body or psyche is capable of. So I think it's important in my recovery, it's important for me to look at what success looks like before I even take that first step on a path. And because success can look different depending on what I'm trying to do. And the older I get, maybe the more recovery time I have, it just looks different. Because I have different values than I used to have. But that's again why it's so important to stop and reflect before you start taking those steps down a path that you want to go.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree so much. And I think we gain clarity, like you said, as we are doing life, which allows us the opportunity to evaluate how we're doing. And
Yeah.
all of this makes me think about college and going into it thinking, well, all I have to do is graduate with good grades and then I can get a job. And after
Right.
that, that's what success will look like. It's just, yeah, pardon the phrase, but just the textbook formula of what success looks like. And I
Hmm.
look back at that and laugh at that thought, because what I really learned in college didn't have anything to do with my GPA. My
Right.
biggest growth came in learning what to do when you face challenges. And when
Hmm.
you come to a wall, do you knock it down? Do you climb over it? Do you go around it? Do you dig a tunnel? Do you crawl under it? I mean, what do you do just to claw your way to get to the other side of that? And as long as you can figure out how to get on the other side and not turn around and go home with a shrug and an excuse that, oh, there's a wall, so I had to quit. uh, I learned I did not have quit in me. That's what I learned in college. I learned what I was made of, and that was the beginning of that fire in my belly that I believe is necessary for success. My clues came in the form of how I felt inside when I was overcoming challenges, and the fact that I had confidence in myself to handle whatever comes my way. That was the biggest thing. And I think that that is an element, that element is a key for a successful life, and becoming familiar with that inner feeling that is directional. You and success become familiar companions. How do you think that how did you figure out what you were capable of in life? That had to be, that's a defining moment for people.
uh, Again, just by a lot of reflection, self-reflection, looking backwards. um and every time that I overcame something and I stopped pushing long enough to look back and realize what I'd overcome. And for me, yes, it relates somewhat to my physical recovery, but and weight loss, but it really relates to all the other things that I overcame that put me in a place to need to overcome some physical challenges. So all the behaviors that I learned as coping mechanisms with food that I used to get me to a place where I needed to take major action physically to heal my body. So and I look at everything, in the last few years that all of us in the world have overcome really since the beginning of 2020. We have all overcome an awful lot, going through, living through, and um, navigating a pandemic. That is no small feat for any of us. So I think about myself individually and collectively what society is doing, and hoping that I can continue to learn from the past and learn and also look at the past to give me indications of what to watch out for in the future. So I think that that's not only does success leave clues that way, but it also helps me prepare for maybe the next version of something that
Hmm.
that comes my way.
Mhm.
And when I look at obstacles to my success, I'd say it's absolutely my mindset, right? Having a good, positive, forward-looking mindset is, I think, a huge contributor to success. And again, once you have to understand what success is for you. But the opposite of that is true. Having a negative mindset or a defeatist attitude, that can work incredibly against someone, myself included. Um, how about you, Paige? What do you think is for obstacles to success?
Well, I want to give you a compliment first about when you talk about mindset. You have taught me a huge lesson with reminding me plenty of times that I am going to have, and when I start to spiral out or spin out with worry, you're like, in your most calm way, I almost feel an eye roll back there going, I'm going to have an abundant mindset. And it really puts me where I need to be. But
Mhm.
not to say that it's not normal to worry. I think
Right.
that's that,
For
but
everyone, yeah, it's very common.
yes, and it's only because of it's the things that we care about so deeply, right? The things that we worry about. But yes, I do agree with you that that is your one of your greatest strengths is your mindset. But I think self-confidence is a critical component to success. Life experience is certainly a bonus and intelligent helps, but only to a point. For me, I rely on my strong common sense
Yes.
for overcoming obstacles, and that emotional intelligence for me is more important than my IQ any day. When I decided to start recovery, I had to believe in myself and my ability to do it. And it helps that I was devoted to wanting to heal and break free from the bonds of addiction,
Mhm.
specifically sugar addiction for me. And I had to be committed on day one and every single day thereafter. It wasn't just like this temporary goal or I'm going to lose 5 pounds. I wanted to change my life forever. And I had this strong desire to help others out of this torment and hell as well. My clues were how I felt after leaving a highly cueing environment without being affected by what others were doing. There is just no better feeling for me than feeling neutral in those situations, feeling safe within myself and appreciating myself for keeping myself safe. It's the ultimate peace and calm the universe can offer me. And Jamie, I'm curious what you think is the most critical component to success and how you found success in recovery more specifically. Jamie, did something that 0.00001% of people in the world have ever done. And I think there's actually two components to her success. One, yes, she lost over 250 pounds, but almost in a separate category is the success of someone who has kept that weight off for long term. I don't, is it rude to say that I think that's almost the bigger accomplishment? Is that okay to say that? That I mean, I think that's such a because you hear so many people that have lost weight,
Mhm.
but there are less stories about people who have kept the
True.
weight off. Is that a fair statement?
Yes,
So,
that's my experience. Yeah, observation
yeah,
too.
and I find it you probably weren't just lucky and just had these great genetics, right? So, do you have
No, my genetics worked
anything
against me.
do you do you have anything that you can attribute that level of success to that our listeners may take away and edify their own journey with?
Um, Again, I probably would say that it's my mindset and in determination to. I wasn't thinking about being a tenth of a percent. It was more just I went through a lot to um get my health back and get my physical body healed from the weight that I carried for so long. And I wasn't going to go back to have to redo my work. It's like,
Oh, yeah.
any, class growing up in school and elementary school, it was like the worst punishment ever to redo an assignment. Uh,
Hmm.
we're in the early days of computers and word processors, which were these machines that predated computers. You could, with a keystroke, you could lose all of your work on a word processor. very easily, pages and pages of notes and papers and essays could be gone. And I remember, that happened maybe 2 or 3 times. And every time it was more painful than the last, because you knew you just had to start again. So the idea of
Mm-hmm.
starting again was like, it felt like punishment to me. So
Mm-hmm.
that kind of kept me focused on, okay, I've come this far, and I really, there is some ebb and flow a little bit to the process, but it does not need to go all the way back to the beginning and start again.
Mm-hmm.
So
That I,
it's important for me.
yeah, that's I had never thought of that point either, but I'm only laughing because Jamie and I were working on some stuff last week and I wiped out everything we had done because I with one stroke of a key and I'd go back and do it all over again. So again, sorry about that. So her story is a little different than mine in that I was just a very severe sugar addict who finally got clean after decades of trying and failing. You might have heard me say that I lived off the dessert diet only for decades till menopause set in and I started gaining weight and couldn't keep up that lifestyle any longer at or fit into my pants. So after a couple more decades trying every diet known to man and thinking plant-based sweeteners were the answer, I finally came to the conclusion that I had a sugar addiction and I had to give up all sweets, even the plant-based sweeteners, and just stick to the single ingredient non-processed foods. So how did I do it 3 years ago, almost 4 years ago? First of all, I was determined. I wanted a better life, one that was not ruled by sugar. I had lived in torment long enough, so I was ready. So that's a big one not to overlook. I was ready and I was willing to give everything I had to test and see if these recovery skills that I had heard about really did work. And after I had my first clean experience, I thought to myself, I can do this again. I think I'll do this. I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to do it one more time. And I wanted to. So I kept going. And I knew after I got so far in with being out of the sugar that I couldn't go back. It's kind of like what you said. So, in a way, I guess there is a common thread there. I didn't want to go back and have to redo all
Yeah,
that I had
exactly.
done. It was just such a dark place for me, and I knew if I ever went back, it would kill me. So the big key for me is doing the work up front so that you are always prepared for whatever's coming along that day, thinking through your day. Before I go to bed at night, I have an idea what my day will look like the next day, what I'm going to eat. So a lot of preparation goes in up front, and I am standing guard over my sobriety. And I'm not saying that lightly. Literally, I feel like I'm standing a post over my sobriety and working through moments of discomfort for a greater reward on the other side. And as leaders in real food recovery, we feel the responsibility to walk the walk and talk the talk. And we know that one of the keys to success is to model someone who is already getting results. So for our members, we want to offer a team of reliable mentors who have had similar experiences and can relate and in
Mm,
turn help others. So if you're looking for success in recovery, RFR is for sure a place you need to check out.
yes, agreed. And again, we have assembled a team of coaches for real food recovery leaders that have been successful in recovery, and it might and all of our recovery looks different. Paige's recovery was different than mine, is different than Shay's, and there's a reason
Mhm.
for that. That we complement each other. We've learned certain things that complement each other's, and we all have different histories, and I think that's important too, so we can speak to different members in the community that are in different places. And when we think about Tony Robbins and his secret to success, as far as what he teaches in his seminars, is all around, successful people learn from other successful people. So
Mhm.
folks that are just starting out in an area of life that they want to learn more about and be successful in, they will get mentors in that area and they will learn everything they can. Um, Mentorship, sponsorship are two big components, I think, in the successful outcomes, or in achieving certain goals that people set for themselves. And again, I think that one of the big components of my own long-term success has been being part of communities that I grew up um, learning from others in, right? Whether it was, recovery communities or church communities or gym communities or school communities, or, my college and grad school communities, all of those were, I made sure to surround myself with people who inspired me uh, to, to learn from them. And that was very important to me. So when we think about why and how we structured real food recovery, the community side of it, we look at how having each of our members learn from the successes of other members, and the
Mm-hmm.
same back to them, right? So we have members learning from each other across the board, and that's so important to, I think, the connection in any
Yeah.
community is you want to be surrounded by people. Like if you're the sum total of the six people that you surround yourself with is the saying, and it's statistically, I think that's true. Um, if you if you want to level up in life, having people around you that push you to that next level, or have modeled for you that next level, that is going to help you get there faster than you on your own.
Yeah. Don't you love his saying though about his number one key to success is watching what others successful do and taking complex systems into simple systems that every common person can follow along? I thought that
Uh,
was,
for me, that I feel like for a lot of people, that's probably um a tough way to approach it, just because it can feel like drinking from a fire hose a little bit. But in Tony breaking that down, that I'm sure that there's a lot of people that find that useful. Maybe in hindsight.
yeah. Oh, I liked it. I thought it was good direction, but anyway, I agree with all of this that we're saying. It's a good discussion. And something you might find interesting is they did a case study and examined successful people and found that there were a few traits that they had in common. So we're just
Yes.
going to quickly spin through these. Number one is grit, from perseverance to work ethic to drive, but it all came down to grit and tenacity. I have a friend who always quotes his dad, and he says often people that are successful get ahead in life because they have more guts than brains. They're going to go for it. And case in point, I was walking up our stadium bleachers after a big snowstorm, and I had showed up and wanted to complete my workout, but the steps were icy and had little spots of snow, but I was so determined to get my workout in. So there's 150 steps, and I went ahead and navigated my way to the top just to see if I could dodge enough ice to make it without killing myself. And I found this upper third had more sunshine and was more melty. So I'm like, okay, I'll just stay here and just keep doing rounds up here for an hour, and then I'll try to work my way down without breaking my neck on the way down. But the point was, I didn't quit. I didn't go, there's snow, I got to go home. So just keep pushing through to figure out ways to make things work.
Yep. Authenticity is the next trait in common. And again, when I think of authenticity, it's aligning to my value system, aligning to, I want to be careful here because I don't believe in aligning to our feelings, because our feelings can many times can mislead us, or they can be areas that we need to maybe feel the feeling and do it anyway. You know what I'm saying? So
Mm-hmm.
I want to be careful when authenticity can be misconstrued as, oh, I feel your feelings and let them lead you. That's not, that's, to me, that is not authenticity. That's actually that can work against us. So
Mm-hmm.
when I think about being authentic, it's being authentic to my values, being authentic to the things, the goals that I've set, being authentic to my deep, convictions or beliefs. But again, we just need to make sure that when we are authentic, that it's in a way that serves us,
Mm-hmm.
and in a way that moves us forward, right?
Mm-hmm.
So some people hear that term authenticity and think, oh, I can just be authentic about my feelings of resentment or feelings of despair or feelings of anger. That's not what we mean when we say authenticity.
I'm glad you brought that up about the point about our feelings aren't facts, they're
Yes.
just thoughts.
Yeah.
So don't just I have a feeling and just react, stop
Yeah.
and think it through. So yeah, good point. Great point.
And and
Generosity
I learned that. I learned that
the
by,
hard way, right?
yeah, absolutely, by being authentic to my feelings and then realizing that that is not authentic. That's not true authenticity. That's just indulgence of feelings.
Amen. Bart Simpson, he said, in the brain, out the mouth. There
Mhm.
needs to be a stop, the red button, just a stop signal in there.
Yes,
It never ends up good.
that's
So
true.
generosity is another one, the art of giving in the interest of others. It's fascinating that this is on the list because one of the things we talk about when people get clean is you have this natural inclination to share the message and pull other people into the lifeboat. So I like that one a lot.
Yeah, me too. Me too. The next one is connection. We talked about this a minute ago, making sure that you're surrounding yourself with people who are going to inspire you to greater heights. That's really very important.
Yep, agree. Self-awareness. In our recovery group, one of our leaders, Shay Williams, said that awareness is the breath of recovery life. It all starts with self-awareness. People who are self-aware possess this deep understanding of their purpose and understand their core values. This is all the beginning of a solid recovery program, and it's essential to success. So when we are self-aware, it sets us up to do the next right thing.
I agree. Yeah. Curiosity is another trait that successful people share. And I think curiosity and maybe the ability to sort of pivot, right, once they find out more information. So curiosity leading to flexibility, I think is very, very important. And uh, I would also say curiosity, flexibility, around outcomes. So
Mhm.
having a strategy or maybe a game plan, but then as the feedback comes in, or you're looking at what maybe the path that you've taken so far, and it's not the path that you thought you were going to be on, being curious, flexible, and not getting attached to the outcome of that journey, I think is very, very, very important. Instead of where am I going, and asking yourself, what am I trying to learn along the way? And that many times is the journey, not the destination.
You've taught me a lot about attaching myself to outcomes and how that is just breeds resentment. So, yeah, love that point. Faith is the next one. In RFR, we rely on a spiritual branch as one of our foundational principles. As humans in life, we need a soft place to fall when things are hard. This generally comes through faith and believing in a higher power, a higher source, a place to turn for comfort, and it allows for hope and optimism when our journey to success requires us to be patient, which it will.
Mhm.
Leaning into our faith and spirituality can be a direct catalyst for fueling our calm, which is so essential because we know that calm is essential in a successful recovery because a calm brain doesn't crave, and it's the ultimate payoff in recovery as far as I'm concerned.
I agreed. The last one is mindset. We've talked a lot about this today. Mindset is really, it requires us to set set a goal of how we want to look at things. I look at it as, putting on, as they say in the 12-step recovery world, a new pair of glasses,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if you are trying to solve the same problem with the same through the same lens, you're going to get the same outcome. So you have to put on a new lens. You have to look at things differently. So it's, the whole Wayne Dyer saying, which I love, 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 is, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And
Yes.
if you cannot change that, in the mindset is the lens with which we look at the world. So
Mm-hmm.
it could be the best thing that happened to us or the worst thing that happened to us.
Totally.
And and many of our listeners know my health challenges in the last year, what I've gone through, and have the layers of the onion that keep getting peeled back, regarding my health journey. Um, and I'm learning so much about how to refine my mindset as I go.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Yeah, you've done a fabulous job. So the
Uh,
bottom,
sometimes that's one step forward, two steps back. But thank you.
isn't that a fabulous job? Is that not one step forward, two steps back? I don't know. Isn't that what it looks like
Yeah,
sometimes?
true.
So the bottom line is learn from the thought leaders in the industry, see what other successful people are doing, whether it's in support groups, podcasts like this, books, or even our social media spaces. People who have walked this path often share the tools and mindset changes that have helped them. By paying attention to these success clues, you can piece together a system that works for you. For example, we want to share some insights from people we've spoken to in the past few episodes. You may remember Lissa or Melissa Maris from Raw Food Romance and Clarissa Kennedy from Sweet Sobriety. Both of them have shared transformative insights about their own paths to recovery. Here's a few clues that they left for us. Lissa talked about making peace with cravings instead of resisting them.
Ah,
She
I love
discovered
that.
that cravings are like messages from our body, often rooted in unmet needs. So
Mhm.
when she started meeting those needs directly, whether it was emotional support, stress relief, or physical nourishment, her cravings began to lessen. This is such a valuable clue for anyone feeling powerless over cravings. Do you
Yeah.
want to share what Clarissa said?
Yeah, Clarissa Kennedy talked about the importance of routine and structure. She found that organizing her time and creating meal plans and building routines for self-care were all essential for staying consistent on her journey. By putting these guardrails in place, she avoided the mental exhaustion of making last-minute decisions around food. Very, very
Mhm.
true. So again, each of these insights or clues, they point us in the direction of success.
Yeah.
But again, we want to remember that sometimes if we're feeling like we don't have a path, it helps to stop and look backwards and we see the path that we walked. And then again, we can see the if we want to make changes or if we want to repeat the pattern.
Yeah. Yeah, so and sometimes since we're human, we know that motivation can run low. That is common for everyone. So one
Yes.
of the most powerful things you can do is keep returning to these success stories, just like Jamie was indicating, and remind yourself that if they can do it, so can you. And when the journey gets tough, hearing about someone who has succeeded can help reignite your drive. Consider maybe keeping a success clues journal, write down notes from books, podcasts, or people who inspire you on your journey. And then that reflection that Jamie was talking about earlier on what resonates with you most with you, and use it as a reminder when you need that extra push.
Yeah, very, very good reminder. And again, we understand it can be overwhelming and disconcerting to try to make these changes all at once. So again, just start small, stay
Yeah.
focused on the one thing that you want to do. And I've been guilty so many times of trying to boil the ocean, and I have to remind myself just to focus on one thing and then make those changes or take those steps or maybe tweak those little areas that I want to tweak, and then I can go on to the next one, right? Starting small is very, very important. And when I coach people, I tell them, all the time, if you're looking at a mountain of things that you want to change or a mountain of a new landscape that you want to create in your life, um, you have you have to actually take your view off the mountain. You have got to take your eyesight and put it right down in front of you
Mm-hmm.
instead of looking out in the distance. You've
Yeah.
got to just look right down in front of you at your feet and just look in front of your feet and take a step. That's
Yeah.
the only thing you need to do.
Did you say boil the ocean?
Yes.
That is fantastic. Did you make that up? That is a good one. So I agree. Yes, absolutely. One step at a time. And if there are any success clues you found helpful in your journey, then reach out to us and share your story. And thanks for joining us today on this special episode about success. And if you want to know more about this topic or discover what we do at RFR to help those recovering from processed food addiction, please find us at realfoodrecovery4u.com. That's the number 4 and the letter U, and be looking for our book that will be coming out at the beginning of the year. So, okay, we have time for two
Yes,
quick
that's the beginning
questions.
of 2025.
Yep,
beginning of 2025, yes. Yep, we have time quickly for a couple of questions.
go ahead.
The first question is, I hear a lot about success and you have to set goals. Why is that so important? I've never been one to set goals. In fact, I avoid them. Yep, goal setting can be overwhelming for some folks, and I totally get it. For me, I don't look at, again, I have to define what success is first. What does success mean to me? And when I look at what the definition of success is in that particular genre of whatever I'm thinking about or aiming towards, then I have an idea. Okay, if I know what success looks like, then I'm able to say, okay, what would be maybe something that I want to change to align to that success. So I don't
Mhm.
look at it as goal setting, because for many people, especially folks who have had wonky life journeys, success can be very, or goal setting can be very overwhelming, can feel
Yeah.
very intimidating, and
Mhm.
that works against you. So what does success look like? And then make sure that you breaking down that vision of success into simple things, right? And then you look at those single outcomes, and then you say, okay, what do I need to do differently that gets me to that single outcome? So like, let's say if I looked at my 250-pound loss, right? That was my mountain years ago. I knew I was 400 plus pounds, and I needed to be about 150 or 175. So, okay, what did I need to do? If I just thought my goal is to lose 250 pounds, that was not my goal. My goal was uh, to walk without, to walk, to stand, to move without being out of breath or sweaty. My goal was to get through a meal without eating highly processed toxic foods. My goal was to drink more water. My goal was to feel like my body, like I belonged in my body. So that I broke each of those things down and started moving towards each of those little mini goals instead of looking at 250 pounds. And then
Yeah.
when I got to a point where I realized that my body was sort of there. It was, that was the weight that I was going to be at. It didn't look like what I initially thought it would look like. And then I looked backwards and realized what I'd done. I just kept doing more of it. And again, there's
Oh,
no finish line. There is no finish line. There is no after.
oh.
So let me be very clear about that. There's always a continuation of the journey.
And aren't you glad? I mean, in a sense, I don't want to ever get to the end point because I'll let my foot off the gas pedal, and I think it looks different,
Yes.
but yeah, I don't think there's an end point
Yeah.
in
And
recovery.
you're right. And I know we have to quickly end here, but I just want to thank all of you for joining us. Paige, do you want to take us out?
Sure. Thanks for being here today. And if you want to know more about us, you can find us again at realfoodrecovery4u.com. That's the number 4 and the letter U. Be looking for our book at the beginning of 2025. Thanks, guys. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Okay. Thanks so much.